Hello, and welcome to this very special podcast, Alpha Discussions podcast. Today, we have a content creator with us. We have Christopher. He's also known as Tao Satoshi. He is the host of Cash Alternative TV and the founder of Dash Nation. So I wanted to have Christopher come on. One because he's a content creator that posts on discussions, but also he has a very long history with the Dash project, and it is a project that we at discussions are looking into supporting in the future. So I want to get him onto video and kind of have a chat to learn a little bit, to educate us about the Dash project, and as well as some of the other things that he's doing. So welcome on the show, Christopher or Tao.
Well, it's great to be here. I'm happy to be on, and because I haven't been interviewed in a long time, I'm usually the one on the other side asking the questions, and I'm always happy to talk about Dash any opportunity I have because I believe in it very much. It's a solid project, and we'll get into the features today.
Yeah. So let's start with you first. So obviously you're a content creator. Did you work on other kinds of content before cryptocurrency, or is cryptocurrency what really got you started in this process of content creation?
Yes, it has been cryptocurrency that's got me started because I actually was into public speaking when I was in school, but I haven't really done anything to that effect in cryptocurrency, but I've used some of those skills that I had in public speaking to go into my video tenure. So that's pretty cool. I actually had the passion to do something in cryptocurrency because I really believe in it. I believe in the future of the technology. And I figured that if I can influence anybody else to be excited about it too, then that would be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think cryptocurrency is still, despite it being much more popular now than quite a few years ago, a lot of people are still very confused about it. There's a lot of misconceptions about. I think a lot of people, when they look at it, they think of it as a get rich quick scheme, not realizing there is fundamental questions, fundamental problems is trying to solve. So it is through content creators like you that help us, educate people about the topic. So let's just go a little bit deeper. I want to understand you a little bit more before we get to Dash. Obviously, you're very passionate about Dash, but before Dash, obviously, there's Bitcoin. And how did you first get into touch with Bitcoin, or is your first interaction actually with Dash before it was with Bitcoin? How did it all come about?
That's a good question. Basically, like everybody else, I got in touch with Bitcoin first, and it's kind of an interesting story how that happened with me. Everybody usually has like a fancy story of how they got involved with Bitcoin, but mine's fairly simple, and it's actually reveals an interesting side of me. So basically, I was trying to get American Netflix here in Canada. That was it. I was trying to get Netflix because they have a better selection of videos, a better selection of movies, and everything else, and I wanted to get it. So in order to get it here in Canada, you need to have a VPN. So a VPN, in order to get a VPN, I was doing my research. What's going to be a good VPN? What's not going to, crash on me in the middle of watching a movie? And I found out there's a chat room, and I can't remember the name of the chat room, but I went to the chat room and somebody was saying, you should use this VPN because it's very cool and it accepts Bitcoin. So at this point, it was the first time I heard of Bitcoin. I didn't know what it was. So I went into the rabbit hole and I found out what Bitcoin was, and I enjoyed what it was doing. And then after that, I was hooked. I took the red pill and then I never looked back.
I see.
So then getting into Dash, I was kind of trying to expand my horizons. I always want to know things. I do research about everything. So I researched into other different cryptocurrencies, and Dash happened to pop up, and I was looking into it. And I thought, well, this is a really good, I liked Evan Duffield's idea of privacy in cryptocurrency. And then ever since then, I just invested. I said, this is what I want to be part of. And I haven't looked back from there either.
Okay, well, you touched on something I wanted to get into, which was, you interacted with Bitcoin, you kind of learned about it, you read about it. What was it about Dash that was so much more appealing than the alternatives that were out there? And what flaws did you see in Bitcoin that you think Dash addressed it in a much better way?
Okay, well, there's a lot of things that Dash does that Bitcoin can't do. Like the first one is optional privacy on the blockchain. There are some third-party services now that do the same thing as Dash. It's basically like an advanced version of CoinJoin, the private send feature. But there's no other coins that have originated on the blockchain, such as Dash with the masternodes. So you go through this CoinJoin on the masternodes, so it becomes on the blockchain protocol level privacy. And this is something that only Dash did back then. And this was something that I was very interested in. Now Dash is a lot more. Dash is focused on payments and has other features that we'll go into later. But at the beginning, it was the privacy feature that really took my eye. And then over time, we also have very fast transactions. So like whereas in Bitcoin, you're waiting very long for your transactions to clear, sometimes up to like an hour.
Mhm.
And but with Dash, because of the features that we have as chain blocks and instant send, those are like actually processed within seconds. And also with the new integrations that are coming up with Dash platform, that's going to make cryptocurrency as easy to use as PayPal or Venmo, like easy for your grandmother to use. So it started off as privacy, but
Yeah.
it basically branched into other things. So it kept me interested. And the fact that the community is so cool and opening and welcoming, that was something that I wanted to be a part of as well. So Dash basically takes everything that Bitcoin fails at, and this stuff is governance, privacy, fast transactions. They've solved all this stuff. All we have to do as a community is educate people and tell you, you know what, this works. And there's places in the world where there's hotbeds of activity, such as Venezuela. And those are places where we can actually create ecosystems around Dash and show that it can work in a normal economy.
Mhm.
So these are things that are very exciting to me, and that's why I stick around and I'm into Dash.
I see. Well, you brought up a lot of things, so there was a
Yeah.
lot to unpack there. But I was checking out the Dash website, and I think you just mentioned that the Dash wants to be something as easy to use as something like Venmo, PayPal, and I think the website kind of reflects that ideal because it is quite similar and provides similar information that a payment processor would like to see. So um, again, you cover a lot of grounds, but you did touch on the point about community, and that's something that we really pay attention to here on discussions because we want discussions to be a platform where these new generation of decentralized blockchain tokenized communities could thrive on. So tell me a little bit more about the Dash community, and you brought up Venezuela very briefly. So is that the region where the Dash group is kind of devoting their energy, and how is it doing so? You mentioned masternodes. Uh, is there a worker proposal system that are funding this initiative, trying to get adoption in Venezuela and different countries and regions?
Okay, well, I can touch on the community itself. It's a very mature community. We have a lot of people that are older. Like whereas you see in other platforms, sometimes it's a lot of people, a lot of kids that want to get rich quick. When's the Lambo coming? Stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Unfortunately,
in Dash, there's a lot of idealists that want to change the world. So I look at cryptocurrency interest as a sliding scale. On the one hand, you've got the people that are in it strictly to make money, which,
yeah,
like I said, I was saying to Bradley Zastro, I actually was one of those people when I first joined. I said, this
mhm,
is an easy way to make money. It's going to go huge. But
yeah,
then on the other side, it's the people that want to change the world, the idealists, and you could fall anywhere in between there. And now I started off more on this side, and now I'm more towards this side of wanting to change the world. And I think the Dash community has that goal as well. And we want to create a payment network that people can use to help the unbanked and people in the world that could use it, like people in oppressive regimes and stuff like that.
mhm,
It's definitely something that can help people out. So that's the community, and it's very welcome. If you come from another cryptocurrency, we're generally welcoming of that. Like we understand people are coming from other cryptocurrencies, and we want to educate them about Dash. We're not going to just say, hey, get out because you're not part of the clique. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I find that's cliquey nature is with a lot of cryptocurrencies. But like, I don't know how you felt, but I felt that way. And as far
It's
as the
very left turning is very it's just not helpful
no.
in general. Yeah.
And as far as the proposals go, like we do have a lot of initiatives around the world. Dash is definitely a global thing. So how the Dash proposal system works is we have, how Bitcoin uses 100% of the block reward for miners. Well, in Dash, it's a bit different. In Dash, we have 45% for the miners, 45% for the masternodes, and 45% for the decentralized treasury. And the reason why we do that is because we think that there's more than mining in an ecosystem. Mining is important. It gives you security, and
Mhm,
it performs valuable functions in a blockchain. But there are other places, other entities in an ecosystem, in a blockchain ecosystem that deserve funding as well. And for
mhm,
Dash, because the masternodes provide many functions in Dash, they were deemed to be able to receive 45% of the reward. And the treasury is another 10% of the reward. And how the treasury works is it goes like every month, there's a super block. So if we just mine a block, the blockchain automatically saves 10% of that block and then pays it all out at the end. So how that works is that we have a decentralized masternode network, and these are people that have a high stakes in Dash. That you have to have 1,000 Dash to run a masternode, or you can be part of a service that allows you to be a fractional masternode and contribute to a full one. So even if you don't have enough for 1,000, you can also be part of a decentralized one. The only caveat to that is that you have to trust somebody with your Dash. But at the moment, that's the way we do it. But in the future with Dash platform, which we'll mention later, there's going to be able to have multiple applications that you can do that. But at the present time, you either have to have 1,000 Dash or be part of one of these centralized systems. But everybody who is part of that has a vote, has a say into what proposals make it. So if you're a contractor, say if you're from discussions, you want to come to the Dash network and say, hey, I want to do something with discussions. I want to promote Dash on discussions. I'm going to submit a proposal. It will cost you 5 Dash to submit that proposal. And once you submit it, the masternodes look it over and they say, oh, is this worth us funding? Do we see the benefit in this? And if we vote you in, and voting you in means you have a 10% net yes vote. So if there's 4,000 masternodes, you have to have at least 400 yeses with not offset by the noes. So 400 more yeses than noes. And if you have that, then you'll get funded, and there's no middleman. You're gonna get funded directly from the blockchain. All right. So we have contractors like that all over the world. The biggest one, and this is the thing that a lot of people get messed up with Dash. They think that Dash is centralized because we have a Dash core group, but really we're not centralized. That's a contractor that's funded by the blockchain, just like everybody else. They're our main contractor, but they're the ones that are funded by the blockchain because they're actually responsible for development. But here's the thing: Dash core group owns materials that are for the Dash blockchain, and that's actually controlled by a trust. So it's by a legal trust. Okay. So if they try to run off with these materials, like if people say it's centralized and stuff like that, they're actually controlled by the masternodes. If the masternodes tell them to do something, because we can use the trust as a legal avenue to force them to do that, because that's the will of the blockchain, right? So that's what a lot of people don't know. That's just an aside. But anyway, we have contractors all over the world. We have ones in Asia, we have ones in Africa, we have ones in Latin America, and all of these people, they apply through this treasury system. So they all put in proposals, and we vote them in because we think that it's beneficial, and then they get funded. So it's really interesting, the Dash ecosystem that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, right now, I'm not sure how much you know about EOS, but we're trying to implement something similar in terms of our. It's probably gonna be dead on arrival. There was like a political effort to get it through, and kind of because EOS at the moment, I'm gonna get a lot of flack from the EOS community by saying this. It's been a little bit stagnant. I think part of that is due to the fact that it's almost impossible to fund community projects. We rely on Block One, which is a huge player. It's kind of the equivalent of Dash Core, to do so much of the development and to fund it, that the community itself don't have a mechanism to able to do that. And the EOS worker proposal system actually cites that the Dash system as the inspiration for the model. So obviously Dash is doing something right with the worker proposal system. Looks like you guys are having Thrive community. I do want to pick up on something you said a little bit earlier, which is you say a lot of people coming to Dash is from other cryptocurrencies. Have you guys made a concerted effort to get like new people, like people who are not familiar with cryptocurrencies at all, to try and use the service or use the platform or understand the community and what it's doing? Is that a big focus of Dash, or is it?
It's kind of like a two-pronged effort, because we have like materials that are geared towards the seasoned cryptocurrency investor, and we also have materials that are geared towards the Joe Blow from the street that's never heard of cryptocurrency. Mind you, the thing that we found in Dash is it's harder to get that Joe Blow who hasn't heard of cryptocurrency involved, because most of the times the people that want to be involved, they are involved.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that goes with the S-curve of innovation, right? So like right now we have the people that are the tech adopters, right? And we're just right at the middle of this huge increase of people that we want to have the majority, right? The early majority. We're just right at the cusp of that. And that's why we're having such a hard time right now. That's why we find that it's stagnating, because the people that are involved are involved. The people that aren't involved don't really see the benefit in it because they don't need it. It's up to us as cryptocurrency enthusiasts to get that word out there and make people understand that not only does it work well, but it's also a hedge against government, money printing and devaluation of our hard-earned money. And when people understand that, then they can go in and say, okay, you know what, this actually works, and there's a benefit for me to hold this. Yes, it's volatile in the short term, like stock markets, but over time it should go up because it's useful. We're actually making it as useful, and people will use, when you have a use case, you have value, and that's the way I see it. So, but we in Dash, anyway, to get back to your question, we have that both two prongs. So we also sell our features to people that are involved in the blockchain, and we sell the ideal to people that aren't involved in the blockchain, because they don't care about the inner workings mostly, right? Some people do. I'm not going to say it's a generalization, but the majority of the people out there, they just want to know that it works. A lot of them don't even care about privacy, right? So yeah, there definitely needs to be two sorts of materials out there. And we have Dash schools. We have in Venezuela, there's a proposal system like Dash.help. And those are the people that you can actually call them if you have a problem with the transaction, or you want to know how cryptocurrency works in general, there's actually a number that you can call. And
Wow.
they've done videos, and also Amanda B. Johnson. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Yeah.
She did a Dash school. So there's
Yeah.
a series of videos that you can watch about that. And also, like from time to time, we just come up with interesting videos like, explaining things. And also, actually, now that you mentioned that, I'm probably going to be doing something like that coming up in the future too, like explaining how to get on testnet, explaining how private send works, explaining how the EvoNet works, which is the Dash platform testnet, and stuff like that. Because those are valuable materials to have out there. You know, we can say all the time that Dash works and Dash is great, Dash has a great ecosystem. But if you're a newcomer and how do I get involved, right? How do I do
Yeah.
this? How,
Yeah.
you know, like, and it's kind of be kind of intimidating for that newcomer. So yeah, that's a good point you make. But yeah, if to make a long story short, yeah, we have two, two avenues.
No, no, no. I love it. Again, lots of things you said that needs to be unpacked. I think it's funny you mentioned the fact that it's a hedge against government printing money because lately I have a lot of my friends coming up to me like asking me about Bitcoin because the fact that in this environment trillions of dollars or trillions of euros too are being printed by the central banks, and I think people are I wouldn't say they're panicking, but I think they could see that trend and it's a worrying trend, and they
Yeah.
want something to kind of combat that. Usually, I just mentioned Bitcoin is the most well known, and then after they're familiar with the concept of Bitcoin, if they're still interested, I would kind of start to introduce them to all these other cryptocurrencies. But yeah, I still think we have a long way to go. I think we're only in that phase where like the mass of the people, the average person, are just discovering Bitcoin, like you and I did, a few years ago, and it's gonna take them quite a bit of time to really get into the full extent of the cryptocurrency ecosystem and explore things like Dash, like EOS, like Atmos, and a myriad different cryptocurrencies out there. So, yeah, there was a second thing you mentioned, but I can't quite remember. Oh, and the point about, is correlated with the S&P 500. Some people actually see that as like a disadvantage, but if you think about it, not everyone has access to the S&P 500. So as like, just like a investment vehicle, Bitcoin, it tracks well. If you want to invest in S&P 500 and you don't have a way to do it, maybe that's the way to go. So,
Yep.
yeah.
I think that's where the people that are interested in an investment probably fall in the middle of that scale. You know, like
Mm.
they think that it works. That's all they care about. They care about making money, but they don't care so much about the adoption and changing the world. They just fall somewhere in the middle. And that's fine. You know, like that. Everybody has their own motivations for getting into cryptocurrency as long as they get into it, right? As long as we push it forward.
Yeah. I also want to pick up on something you said earlier, which is I found extremely interesting, is that there's a number you could call in Venezuela
Yep.
to get help with your Dash transactions.
Yeah,
That
it's a
is,
dash help.
yeah, that's quite amazing. Uh, I don't know, like discussions, we barely have like a support desk.
Yep,
You know,
exactly. Yeah.
it'd be cool.
Or EOS, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And,
So,
and the funny thing is that it's decentralized because these people are funded straight from the blockchain because the
yeah.
decentralized masternodes deemed it that this is an important thing.
Okay, and this is only service available in Venezuela at the moment.
Oh no, there's way more Venezuelan proposals right now. That's just the one that is for helping people.
Ah,
There's
okay.
also there's also adoption efforts going on. There has been in previous years as well. We have a big presence in Venezuela because we recognize that this is a place where maybe the legacy system is just a little bit weaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is a place where they actually are willing to try new things. Rather in first world countries, you don't see that too much because everything works pretty well. People don't see the fact that their money's been eroding over time. They just see, oh, it's like a frog boiling in water. It just happens too slowly for them to realize, right? But it's happening. It's happening right now. You know, so if we can educate these people that this is happening and this is the solution, the more people we get involved with cryptocurrency, the less volatility we're going to have, and we can move on from there.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Venezuela is going to be a fascinating country to, well, it's in an unfortunate political situation, but it is fascinating in that the cryptocurrency and like the knowledge about cryptocurrency is so widespread. So, if they come out of it, if the country ever becomes more politically stable, I think it's going to be a hotbed of innovations for cryptocurrencies just because the general populace is so familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I
I
just
do.
said. Go
Sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I just was going to mention that I just did an interview yesterday with Ernesto Contreras, who's the head of Dash Business Development for Dash Core Group.
Yeah.
And he was going through all that stuff too. He was saying how the climate is very good there, not only from an economic standpoint, but also from a regulatory standpoint. Like whether you like him or dislike him, Nicolas Maduro, the president, he's introduced the Petro, and he's also been saying that he's going to be very favorable towards cryptocurrencies. So, and I think that's probably trying to evade sanctions and embargo from the U.S. I think there's a little bit of political stuff going on there. But at the end of the day, this is an inroad for cryptocurrency, and I think that's very important.
So I do want to get into like how do Venezuelans obtain Dash? Do they just pay with their Venezuelan dollars at a counter and they get exchanged? Is there online bank / exchange they could use to get their hand on a Dash? How do they generally get their hands on it?
Yeah, this is the part that's a little bit tough. You know, like it's the acquiring. This is the thing that we really need to work on as a cryptocurrency, and especially with Dash, because in Bitcoin, like you said, it's bigger. It has more of a network effect. There's more services available to you to acquire it. But Dash has been chipping away at that. We're slowly getting involved in other platforms that you can buy cryptocurrency. You can buy Bitcoin, and Dash is being accepted on these. There's the biggest one is Crypto Buyer. That we've been involved with Crypto Buyer for a while, and this is in Venezuela. It's also, I think it's based out of Panama, but it's a big one in Venezuela. It has a BTC BTC USD pair or BTC Bolivar, and then you can switch from BTC to Dash. So it's a two-step process, but you can still do it. And then there's other little minor ones like local cryptos, local Bitcoins you can use and also switch that for Dash. But you know, over time, we're going to see more. And there's actually places where you can go. There's integrations with payment processors. It's called Megasoft. So Megasoft and Crypto Buyer, you can actually go into retail stores and buy Dash. So like I said, we're chipping away, and there's lots of, I can't name all of them, but every now and then you see some integration coming up with an exchange in Latin America. And so there are options for Venezuelans, but I wouldn't say that it's widespread yet, because like I said, Dash is a small cryptocurrency. We work well, but our challenge is to get people involved in it and to get other businesses to accept it. So I'm not going to say that there's no options, that there's lots of options for them, but they're small options. It's not like you can go, maybe Uphold runs in Venezuela, I'm not sure. Because Uphold is our biggest one. Coinbase also you can buy Dash from, but I'm not sure if these services run in Venezuela. But they do have options to acquire Dash, but we have work to do in that avenue.
I see. I mean, adoption is the question for cryptocurrency. So it's not. I don't think Dash is alone in that endeavor.
No.
So you're in good company.
Yeah. Well, Bitcoin, I mean, rightfully so. Bitcoin is the first one. Bitcoin is the reason why we're all here, right? This is the innovator in the space. Unfortunately, because of the fact that it's kind of, this is a conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat. It's been taken over by a centralized entity that's trying to push people towards using a third-party system. They want to keep Bitcoin illiquid. They want to keep Bitcoin hard to use with high fees, so they can push people onto another platform. And also the fact that they have no governance. They've split 3 times because they can't agree on anything, and that's where governance comes in. Very important in cryptocurrency. There's still only one Dash, even though we've had several contentious decisions being made, because the people that lose the vote, they have to put up or shut up. It's either you go along with us or you sell your coins. There's none of this, oh, we're going to split because we don't know what we think that you took over something. We think that you just rammed this through. No, the vote is there for everyone to see. You lost, you have to eat it, right? That's the way, that's why there's still only one Dash, where there's 2 Ethereums and there's 3, 4 or 5 Bitcoins at this point.
I think I might get off topic a little bit since we're talking about that.
Sure.
I'm not sure if it's been taken over by central authority. There's many opinions on that.
For sure.
I think in terms of psychology, that I think you hit on something that kind of just helped me connect the dot. I think that's one of the reasons why toxic Bitcoin maximalists exist, because they don't have a governance system. They could only enforce it by being so persistent and being so absolutely single-minded in one version of Bitcoin, because there is no other alternative. There is no on-chain. They can't vote. So this is an interesting thought that popped up to my head that I'll share with you.
Yeah, that's what we try to impress on people, that the funding is important and also the governance is important, because you could have funding, but if you have no way to distribute it and no way to get consensus, then people are going to be fighting over the funding. And there's also, remember the block size debate that Bitcoin had? And that's why Bitcoin Cash was created, because they wanted to go with the large blocks. They wanted to be on-chain scaling. And whereas Blockstream and Bitcoin Core wanted to go with third-party technologies.
Yeah.
And this happened because they have no governance, right? And you know how long it took Dash to increase their blockchain size? Less than 24 hours. It was almost a unanimous vote by the masternodes, and then the people that didn't agree, they either sold their coins or went along with it.
Yeah. I want to, you brought up on something that I wanted to touch on, which is infrastructure. Um, so Dash have these master nodes. Are these master nodes, are they physical hardwares that are maintaining the network, or
They
are
can
they
be.
just,
I've heard of some masternodes running on Raspberry Pis,
okay?
but I don't think there are going to be enough computing power in the future, because we're going to have more features in Dash. We're going to have more demands on the masternodes. So I don't think there will be. Mainly, they're hosted around the world in data centers. Like I know,
Mm,
for example, mine are hosted here in Canada at a data center here in Canada. And then you see them from around the world. They're in different various data centers. So basically, you need that. You need a VPS running a masternode, because it's a lot of computational power that gets used. So you have to have something like that. In fact, I'm probably due for an upgrade, because I don't have enough storage for the Dash blockchain anymore. It's getting pretty big.
I see. So
Yeah.
we've been holding on off on this topic for a very long time, which is what is coming to Dash. We touched on it briefly quite a few times, which is applications you mentioned, and there's tons of little new things that is coming to Dash that people might not be aware of and continue to think that Dash is only a payment processing system. So what is coming to Dash? Is it trying to compete with Ethereum? What's the goal of it?
I don't think that Dash is trying to compete with Ethereum per se. It does have kind of like the same, they want to be like, here's the thing with Dash. They wanted to have a decentralized API. So, right now the user experience is you can have a wallet on your phone, you can have a wallet on your computer, you can have a wallet at work, so you have to have a different wallet everywhere you go, unless you use like an online centralized solution. But so with Dash, what they want to do is take that decentralized solution and make it into a centralized user experience. So how they're going to do that is having a decentralized API hosted by the masternodes. So this is kind of like Dash's signature future thing that's coming up. So that's going to be called Dash Platform, right? So you have the decentralized API where you can have a username. Say you're Jacques Wales. You want to have a username. I say I'm Jacques Wales. That's my username. You don't have this long string of addresses. So I can send money to you, Jacques Wales. You can be part of my contact list, similar to PayPal or Venmo. And I can access that from anywhere. I can access it from the computer. I can access it from my phone. I can access it from work. But I don't have to worry that it's a centralized thing, because it's hosted in the cloud of masternodes. So it's like a centralized API in a decentralized way. So that's interesting. And also, there's going to be something called like a decentralized app store, where you're familiar with the Apple App Store or
Yep,
Google Play or stuff like that, right?
of course.
So this is going to be for cryptocurrency. So people, third-party developers, can create apps on top of the Dash platform using the data contracts. They would use their own computational power from their end, but they would host the data on the Dash network. So they could create
I see.
they could create applications, and this can be used. So if I go to the Dash App Store, or whatever we decide to call it, and I want to use the Royal Bank. Like the Royal Bank is a bank here in Canada. So if we at one point achieved mass adoption and everybody was using it, each bank would have an application on the Dash platform, and they'd all be hosted in a decentralized cloud. So you can see we have like a lot of things going on right now. And another use case for Dash is video gaming, because it has fast transactions, similar to EOS. I was actually impressed with that user experience on discussions with EOS. Dash has fast transactions, so I can keep up with gamers' activity. So for example, say if you and I wanted to go into a gaming room and I wanted to bet you, I said, you know what, I'm better than you at this game. I want to bet you $10. So we could go right away, and I can say, okay, I'm going to put my $10, you put your $10, and it's automatically on the blockchain. It's automatically confirmed, and you and I can go at it. We don't have to wait like an hour for it to be confirmed before we do it, because we're worried about a double spend. So these are things that could be also hosted in the Dash platform eventually. And that's why it's so exciting, because we take the user experience that we have now, which is already pretty good. We have instant transactions, we have secure transactions and private, optional privacy, and we put that on a decentralized platform where we can make it as easy to use as PayPal or Venmo. And that's why we're so excited about it.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, it sounds a lot like what discussion is actually doing. The part of the reason why we've been able to make discussion so easy to use is that we have a similar approach where we put the data on the blockchain, and a little bit of the logic, but most of the logic is in the web browser itself, the client itself. We do it, one, because it's decentralized, is better for decentralization, and two, it just again provides that much more seamless user experience. So very, very, very interested in learning more about that as that comes out. And yeah. So I think we're gonna close off the session. I have so much more to ask you about Dash, but I think I have to look into what you already mentioned before I can ask those questions. So
For
before we
sure.
wrap up, let people know where they could find you, what things, what's your hobby, what are you doing, and maybe again, quickly round off about what Dash is doing, why should be and why people should be interested in Dash.
Okay, well, that's kind of where should I start? Should I do the Dash thing first and then get into my contact information?
It's up to you, whatever order you think makes sense.
Okay, yeah. Well, I just want to say again about Dash that it's a very underrated cryptocurrency. If you look at it in the market cap rankings, you'll see it at rank 20 to 22 on a regular basis. And in my opinion, it does not deserve to be there. It deserves to be much higher because of what it can do, what it solves Bitcoin's problems, and it also adds to the experience. It's going to add to the experience. I believe it's a very good investment. I'm not do your own research. At the end of the day, I'm just the guy on the internet. But I've been involved in Dash for a long time. I've seen it grow. And I see that the respect that it doesn't get from the industry, and it should definitely get that respect from the industry because all it's doing is solving problems, and all it's doing is innovating. And when you're part of the community, you see this, and it's very frustrating that other people can't get it. So if you're watching me, if you're listening to what I'm saying, and you see all the features that Dash has and will have in the future, because at one point Dash didn't have any of these features that it has now, and I'm talking to you about the future Dash platform is going to happen, and this app store is going to happen. People are going to be able to use the power of the Dash network in their decentralized way. This is going to be the future, in my opinion. So I think Dash should at least be up there in the top 10. But you know that's going to happen in time once we get people like such as yourself and other people talking about Dash. You know. So, and as far as my contact information, I'm Christopher Carruthers, Tao of Satoshi as my screen handle. I'm the host of Cash Alternative TV. Every Saturday, I have a live stream at 4 p.m. UTC, and we talk about all kinds of crypto topics and all kinds of Dash news from the previous week. So if you're interested in that, you can go to YouTube, Cash Alternative TV. If you're not a fan of YouTube, I'm also hosted on other platforms. You can find out all the platforms that I'm hosted on dashnation.com/CATV. Those are going to show you all the platforms where I'm hosted on, where Cash Alternative TV is hosted on, including discussions.
Of course.
Right, and that's for people that don't like. So Library TV is a good YouTube alternative. BitChute is a good YouTube alternative, and I'm on both of those. And as far as my personal one, if you want to get a hold of me personally, I'm at Tao of Satoshi on Twitter or Tao of Satoshi on Instagram. It's the same handle. So that if you want to talk anything about Dash, you want to learn about anything, or you want to talk about cryptocurrency, I'm always around. So that's me.
Okay, that's fantastic. I want to thank you so much again for coming on, Tao, and kind of educating us, the discussions team and the discussions community, more about Dash, because I do think there is a huge, I wouldn't call it tribalism, at least on discussions. I think it's kind of just narrow-mindedness in terms of we only pay attention to EOS, or we only pay attention to Dash or Bitcoin or whatever it is. So it's always good to kind of hear what the other projects doing and kind of do our part in kind of lowering the hostility, trying to get people to understand that we are working towards a common goal, which is decentralizing and opening up a financial system for the world. So
absolutely, yeah, and I really appreciate you having me on the show. I have you on my show. Cash Alternative TV is basically a show about cryptocurrency, but we focus on Dash. So we're open to learning about everything, and we're also open to educating other people about Dash. So thank you for having me on the show, and for your viewers that are going to be able to learn about Dash now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much, and let's have you back on sometime soon in the future.
Sounds good.
Okay, ciao, ciao, everyone.
Cheers.